UCLA.
With USC great and NFL stud, Frosty Rucker.
The Trojans back in front.
And LAFB founder Ryan Dyrud on the Believe Podcast Network and LAFBnetwork.com. This is your destination for Los Angeles football.
What is up, Los Angeles, and welcome to another edition of the Believe in LA Football Podcast here on the Believe Podcast Network, also on LAFBnetwork.com for destination for Los Angeles football. It's a nice, crisp, chilly winter day here in Los Angeles. Finally feeling some winter vibes, some football vibes. Speaking of winter vibes, Frosty, my man, what's going on?
That was a good one. I'm good, man. What's up, Ryan? What up, LA? I might need to change my background since it's wintertime. Put some Christmas lights or something.
There you go. Some icicle lights hanging down. So I didn't even plan that out. That was just on the fly. It just came to me. So yeah, man. So excited to do today's show. LA football, we were hoping for a 3-0 weekend. We went 1-2. It could have been 3-0. It also could have been 0-3. So it was a wild weekend for all three of our teams, which we will get to here in just a minute. Today's episode of the LA Football Podcast brought to you, as always, by Golden Road Brewing Company. 5 locations in the Southern California area. We also sell their beer, the Bolt Up Golden Ale or the Who's House Blonde Ale on LAFBnetwork.com. Just head to the LAFB locker room. You can get it right there. Also brought to you, as always, by betonline.ag. Great prop bets, great money lines, great cover spreads. Everything you need is on BetOnline. Plenty of stuff to bet on. Election is, I guess, technically not officially over, but I don't know if you can still bet on that since it's pretty much in the books, thankfully, somewhat. But a lot of football, college football back. So for us, I know there's a lot of fun stuff on BetOnline to win some money on, hopefully.
Yeah, man, you can go on and bet right now. NBA is coming up in December, so they say there's going to be the tip-off. Bet who you think is going to be the champion. You know who I'm going with?
Repeat? Yeah,
just
why not? Yeah, repeat until otherwise. Yeah, plenty of stuff. So head over to betonline.ag. If you haven't signed up yet, they got great sign-up bonuses. Tell them Frosty and Ryan from LAFB Network sent you. So, all right, Frost. Let's start with our UCLA Bruins, who I'm just going to let out a sigh because the game was interesting, right? It started off horrendously. Turnovers aplenty in that first half. They fall to a 35-14 deficit in one half and then come roaring back in the second half. It almost had remnants of that Washington State UCLA game from last year where they were able to pull off the comeback, but they didn't this year. It was just all in all, when you look at it, it wasn't a good game. I know the score was only a one-score game, but it wasn't great for our UCLA Bruins.
Yeah, not a good way to start off, Ryan. Turnovers. I think they had 4 or 5 in the first quarter and a half or something like that. It's never going to be a good recipe for success. The team did show some fight. I love to see that towards the end of the game, making it a nail-biter, some would say. But leadership. They need more leadership. They got to make more plays and hold on to the ball.
Yeah, and that leads me to talk about, obviously, he's the quarterback. He's going to get the most talked about, whether it's fair or not. That's the way football works. The quarterback's the head of the team outside of the coach. And it starts with DTR, man. We had a guest on, Corey Paz, who was critical of him. We agreed to an extent, but also said, hey, this is his chance to prove people wrong. And unfortunately, he did what he's been doing his entire career, where he shows you glimpses and flashes of why he was such a good recruit, why he's so athletic, why he can be great. But he didn't even show you stuff that you're like, what are you doing? Like, you cannot start at the Big 5 level doing the things that he was doing. Some of the passes, even plays that he didn't actually turn the ball over, but plays that he could have turned the ball over, or plays where he's missing wide open receivers, or he's doing a horrible read. The fumble was just a bad read where a bobbled handoff, really, which I think maybe that even was credited to Demetric Felton, but it was really on DTR. So it's just continuously head-scratching plays that you're not going to win football games, and you're not going to improve the program when that's still how you're letting things go.
Yeah, I try not to be as critical when I do these podcasts and I talk and people want to listen to what I got to say. I don't know why, but I'm not really a critical guy. I understand the human error. I understand pressure. I understand being under the lights. You know, what we see as fans, I'm talking to everyone out there, it's really hard on the football field. So I'm trying not to be as critical, but DTR has to play better. Let's make no mistake about it. Some of the things are careless, and he may be just trying to fit a ball in there or trying to make a play, but it just doesn't look right sometimes, right? Yeah. You look at the stat sheet. Let's look at the stat sheet here.
Yeah.
He threw for
that was a different story.
Yeah, he threw for 303 yards, 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
1 interception.
Yeah.
He had 109 rushing yards.
Yeah.
If you take that away without watching the game, you're like, this kid is going first round.
Right, yeah.
If you watch the turnovers and how they happen, it makes you really detract from being on the bandwagon and just like, what is going on? Look, they got a game under their belt. They didn't win it. Time to look at the film, see if they can make any improvement before this next week's matchup comes up.
Yeah.
But playing the way they did with those turnovers is not the recipe for success.
No, absolutely not. And I agree with you. Some people are too critical. These are still college athletes, young men who are building something, and it's a sport with a magnifying glass where every little thing is critiqued to an extent that really isn't fair because, like you said, it's a hard game. But when you're in that spotlight and you're given that opportunity and you're going to college essentially for free on scholarship and all that, and I'm not going to go down that road, but there's little things that you can point to. What was that?
I said, don't go down that road.
I'm not going down that road. We're staying away from that. But but you have to at least assess to an extent, which you just did and which I did, and just he's just not doing the things required of him at the quarterback position, and that's holding on to the football, making smart decisions, and stuff that we've been saying now. This is his 3rd season, and it's still the same thing. So he's obviously gifted. He obviously can do the things needed to do to get them back into games. So now it's just doing that from the start of the game and not putting him in those situations where he has to play hero ball and just play smart football. And I think if he does that and doesn't try to do too much, and that's sometimes he's just trying to do too much, right? And
I think he has enough. I think when you really look at the way he plays the game, the plays he makes, like you keep saying, they're sharp. Some of the plays are, a step under greatness. I'm going to say he can throw a deep ball. He runs fast. I mean, look at his touchdown. I mean, it's like a 50-yard sprint running away from people. I mean, he has what it takes, but it has to all come together. And maybe we'll be singing a different tune if he actually won the game. If they came back, won the game, you get a little pat on the back. It wasn't as bad, but you won the game.
Yeah.
Right? But when you don't win the game, everything gets under the microscope. Every single thing from your footwork to how he handed off the ball, this turnover, this read, what were you thinking? And that's the stuff the coaches are going to be on him against. Mm-hmm. That's the stuff the coaches are going to be on him about. Yeah. Right? The little things. When you lose the game, you're under that microscope just that much more. So he needs to have a combination of a great week of practice, some self-reflection, because he did respond in that tweet, right?
Yeah.
That Corey and, we pushed out what Corey said. He responded. And the only thing we wanted to see from him is to go out there and play ball.
Yeah.
Or enough, DTR. You can play this game.
Yeah.
Calm down, make your reads, do what's right, make a play. That's it. Don't try to do too much, because it seems like when he tries to do too much or he tries to win the game, it just doesn't go in his favor.
Yeah, and I do want to put a positive spin on this. That's what I try to do always. But when they go down, I said 35-14 at half. They were down 35-7 at one point. So at that point, you're like, ball game, right? Game's over. The fact that, A, he didn't give up on himself, came out and still played his butt off and worked hard. But 2, the players didn't give up on either. Because there comes a time when your quarterback's hurting your team with turnovers, you start thinking maybe your teammates or whatever, not that they're going to turn your back on you, but they're, maybe cut a route not as crisp or not block as hard, or little things that maybe you're just not going to try as hard. Like, look, I'm working my ass off and he keeps turning the ball over. But they didn't do that. The team rallied around him. He rallied around himself. The coaching staff instilled confidence in him at halftime. They come out on their first drive. He busts like a 60-yard run for a touchdown. So that's the positive you take from this, right? All that bad stuff, but the fact that they still played as a team, they still played hard, they worked at it, eliminate those turnovers, eliminate those mistakes, and you could be singing a different tune next week against Utah.
If the UCLA Bruins, Ryan, if they play like they played in the second half of that game, the rest of the season with everyone else, they may be able to get 3 or 4 wins out of this. That's just my opinion, because the way they rallied and played together, coaches all full of confidence, DTR out there doing his thing, they can play some ball. But if they don't, trouble's ahead of them.
Oh, yeah.
They're already out of the Pac-12 championship. They need to string some games together to make this, in this COVID sixth season, to be competitive. That's what they need to do. They need to play with that same energy and passion, because I hate to be down on the team. We cover them. I don't want to sit here and talk about losses all the time.
Yeah.
But versus a Colorado team that is the bottom tier of the Pac-12, new coach, all that, I was expecting a little bit better out of UCLA.
Yeah. No, I was too. And the last thing I want to say about it, because I don't want it to all come down on DTR, because it shouldn't. You know, it's a team game, and the defense, which we talked about in the preview, that needed to improve, didn't play well last year. Unfortunately, did not look very well improved, giving up 525 total yards of offense. CU's quarterback, I don't know how much you knew about him. He was playing safety last year. Wasn't playing quarterback, he was playing safety. The team convinced him to come back because of his veteran leadership, and he played at quarterback, and he finished with over 200 yards passing, touchdown, no turnovers. They had 264 yards rushing. So can't all fall on DTR. I know he turned the ball over. Go ahead.
It's a big win for Carl Durrell coming back versus his old team. And
huge win for Carl Durrell. So, that's got to be cleaned up, because I know the offense put him in bad situations, but when you let Colorado run over 90 plays and over 500 yards, I don't care what your quarterback does. It's going to be hard to compete with that. So, some good things, the fight, the grit. I liked just the more fundamental. There were still missed tackles. Gaping holes. They were just, 5-6 yard gashes every single first down for the running game. So I got to clean that up. So, there's a lot of work to be done, but if we saw one thing and we know one thing moving forward, it's just which DTR are we going to get? And that's going to decide kind of the forecast of the game. So I think when he plays well, then the rest of the team is going to play better around him too.
And that's the marks of the leader that they need and the leader that he can be.
Yeah.
Going to be playing versus a good Utah team that didn't get a chance to play this first game. So if there's a chance for redemption and to start things over and push reset, here it is. You have a game under your belt. Utah doesn't. Jump on top of them right away. It's going to be tough. Utah's a well-coached team and a really good team. But if UCLA plays the way they played the second half, why not?
Yeah. Yeah. They showed in that second half they can play with anyone. I know it's Colorado and they lost. They showed that they can at least play with anyone because of how dynamic the offense can be and if the defense can shore things up. So they did have a couple block kicks. Special teams played well. Last thing I'll say before I move on to your team, which was another amazing game and in good things and bad things. But our guy, Demetric Felton, over 100 total yards and two touchdowns. Kid can play.
He's a player.
Yeah.
He's a good player. Sorry, out of the backfield, catching the ball, running the ball. He's exactly what's advertised, and they need to find more ways to get him the ball.
No, I was going to say, if we're going to be critical on DTR, critical on the defense, we got to be critical on Chip Kelly and the fact that down the stretch, when they were trying to mount a comeback, they weren't putting the ball in Felton's hands. I don't really know why. I don't know if he was banged up, but there was times in the last possession, I don't even think he was in the game. So that was a little head scratching, a little weird. I don't know what was going on there. But overall, kid can play, had a great game, and I'm excited to see him continue to propel his future career in football. So,
that's a good point.
Yeah. So tough loss for the Bruins, 48-42. They look to rebound against Utah. That game actually has been moved from Friday to Saturday for COVID reasons with Utah and, them trying to get ready and right. So now that'll be a Saturday kickoff, which we will preview in our next episode. But Frosty, USC Trojans, there was about, with 5 minutes left, ESPN predictability meter had Arizona State as a 99.6 odds to win. And not so fast, my friend, because the Trojans, let me just start with this, and then you're going to talk mostly about this game because this is your team. If the Trojans play like they did in that last 5 minutes all season, this is a damn good football team. It's just about getting it for 60 minutes. Go ahead.
They can make plays, man. They're completely talented. Going into this game, I got what I wanted out of it. I wanted to win. I knew some of it was going to be sloppy. I knew they were playing a really good team, well-coached team. And if you watch the game, you understand what I mean. They talked about the coaching staff at ASU the whole entire time.
Nonstop.
Right? But if you want to narrow it down, I thought Slovis was going to play lights out. I thought he was going to light up the scoreboard. He's going to light up the stat sheet. I thought he at some point was just going to take over. That takeover didn't happen until like 5 minutes left in the game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So some of the things that I noted before the game that I wanted to see the improvement from this team was I wanted to see how physical they were. They got a couple different pass interference calls, but I also wanted to see the defensive backs challenge. That's one of the things that we haven't had at our school in quite a little while. People weren't challenging guys. People weren't showing up in the run game. I thought the defensive backs did a great job. I thought we were very physical at the point of attack, both sides of the ball. I can just sit here and say that I just wanted a little bit more out of Slovis. If there's any point to highlight here, I just thought Slovis was going to come out doing his thing. But it's the same offense. It was the quick slants. It was the quick screens. Just get the ball in the playmaker's hands. Not too many down the field throws, but he did connect on a few. But my MVP of this game is Drake London.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, can that kid play.
Yeah, both Drakes. Drake Jackson on defense and Drake London on offense. Kids,
yeah, man. We got the talent over there, and hopefully it just kicks in before the 5-minute mark.
Yeah, I know. And it's shows good things, because I think this, in reverse of UCLA playing the worst team to start off, I think USC just played the best team they're going to play on their schedule. So their schedule is just going to get a little easier. It's any given Saturday, I guess, but the schedule will get easier, and if they sure up those mistakes, they can beat anybody, I think. But yeah, to your point about Slovis, here's my overly critical coach's hat if I'm going to do that, because you know me, I love Slovis. I'm a big Slovis guy. It's Slovis season.
Couch coach.
But the couch, yeah. I got my beer hat on, not my coaching hat on. But the thing that worried me a little bit, not really worried me, but that was surprising to me is, I don't know if you noticed this, but there was a lot of throws, even ones that he completed. It was almost like he just fluttered out there. Like there was no zip on him. Not saying at all he's injured or anything, but I don't know if it was just an uncomfort, an untrust, or what it was. That last touchdown, not the case to Drake London. That he zipped over the middle, hit it between two defenders. Probably the best pass of the weekend we saw. But there was a few of those, even the short little, out routes, where it was just a little like flutter out there. The ball was just hanging there.
Yeah, and it wasn't no zip to get it all the way out there. And that's something that he has shown us all last season. True. And he could put a little zip on the ball. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was a 9 a.m. start. I don't know. Maybe he didn't get his Wheaties, his Captain Crunch. I don't know what he didn't get. But I think moving the time back, playing Arizona this game, they didn't get a chance to play last week. SC has a lot to improve on, a lot to work on all week of practice, and they already set the tone with the pads, something Arizona hasn't had a chance to do. And I'm thinking this is going to be a rout.
I agree with you. Talk to me about this real quick, being a defensive guy that played the game. So they talked almost ad nauseum on the broadcast about how Arizona State's zone defense was what giving USC's offense problems, how it's an offense built for man coverage, and the zone was giving them problems. In reality, in your opinion, why is that? Is it just because their routes can't get open in those soft zones? Or I wasn't confused by it, because I totally understand, but break it down for everyone listening why that is, why it was giving USC's offense trouble.
To start it off, Arizona State has a really good defensive line. Their front four was really active all game and kept Slovis off his mark. They were in the backfield. They flushed him tons of times. So his head was always on the swivel. So he didn't have much comfort in this game. It didn't really settle into the end. But the way their style of play really goes to match up against man defense. With USC's style of offense, it's quick, fast, get the ball out of Slovis's hand. Well, when you're running zones, there's someone in that vicinity. So you have to make the smart play. If you run a lot of mans and blitzing, the offense is going to rip them apart, because the ball's going to come out fast, and it's literally a one-on-one receiver versus defensive back, running back versus linebacker, and then you're creating bigger plays. But when you're running zones and you're not sending a lot of people, and the quarterback's scrambling and looking around and can't find his immediate first two reads, it makes it very difficult. So most people like to blitz him, but this time they sat back, they stayed in their zones, and made him not make bad decisions.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with the offense. Slovis didn't have a chance to make all the plays because he was trying not to make bad decisions.
Yeah. And I think it needs to be stated that that zone, because a lot of people say, well, why didn't teams do that in the past? Like if it slows down, why? I mean, especially we know these spread offenses have been around for a while. The key for that zone to work is your front four have to get pressure on the quarterback. If he has all day back to the pass, they're going to pick apart the zone because guys are going to find the soft spots. But if you're getting the quarterback quickly, like ASU was able to do with some of those big guys, some of those D tackles, I'm not comparing to Aaron Donald, but Aaron Donald like play style, that's when they can be disruptive and cause problems. And then luckily for us and for other Trojans fans, Graham Harrell and the offense figured it out in those last 5 minutes to say, okay, if they're going to keep doing this, we're just going to gash him in the running game, which I wish they would have done a little earlier. But we saw Stephen Carr have some great runs. Marquise Stepp had some great runs. Vavai Malapai had some great runs. Malapai had a great game, if not for that fumble on the goal line, to be honest. And then he kind of didn't play much after that.
That could have went anyway because I think he passed the threshold of the goal line. But you got to have control. And, again, that play is a 50-50. So I wasn't too pleased with the call, but I understood.
No, I agree. I didn't love the call either. I think just because they called it on the field a fumble, they couldn't reverse it. But usually as soon as that ball even touches the plane, it's touchdown. Doesn't matter if he drops it, fumbles it, whatever. But either way, last thing I want to say about this game, Frosty, because you called it or you asked for it on your podcast, Take Back the West podcast. Make sure to check that out. You guys are doing great already. We're getting stuff up all the time. You talked about the special teams, how this is a unit that has struggled in years past. They brought in a new coordinator from Kansas State. I thought of all the hires, this was one of the most exciting ones. There was a lot of good hires, but this was a great one because he's had tons of experience under his great head coach, his dad, down at Kansas State. And now he's over here in Los Angeles. And we saw an onside kick recovered and successful for USC. So great for you. You asked for it, and they got the job done.
Honestly, going into that game, I said it like you said on the Take Back the West podcast. I wasn't looking for a particular player just to have a outstanding game because I knew it was going to be sloppy. Yeah, I wanted Slovis to play better than he did, but I wanted to see all the improvements we had with changing the coaching staff. I wanted to see our defensive backs play physical. I wanted to see the defensive linemen play with their hands and rip off blocks and be dominant. I seen that in the game. I seen them running fast and physical to the ball and making plays down the field. And I wanted to see special teams. I seen a lot of good kicks. But I wanted them to make a play and win a game, and that's what they did. You can do a fake punt in the middle of the game and all that. That sounds good, but what was the play that really turned the corner? And it was that onside kick that made me a believer in that special teams unit.
Yeah, had to have it, and they got it and went down the field. And I still am smiling about that touchdown pass. I didn't know the way that was. I don't know if it was the camera angle or the way Drake London caught it and then just kind of hit it to the side. I thought he dropped. I thought it was intercepted, to be honest with you. I thought the safety crashing over the top picked it off because even the broadcast was like delayed, and it was like, oh, he has it, touchdown.
Let's talk about Drake London for a while. This is a guy that plays basketball and part-time plays football, right? He's a basketball player. But not only that, he's being coached by one of the best receivers that played at SC, Kerry Colbert. Kerry Colbert had very strong hands. And that right there is probably a drill that they've done, and it proved it. It was a great catch, turned away, it was on his hip, strong hands, caught the ball, and, the rest is history. And Drake London made me a believer. Heck, I'm going to buy his basketball jersey.
Heck yeah, I love it. I mean,
I'm going to support that guy. That guy, he went out there, played. He was physical. He ran through guys. He jumped over guys. I'm sure he caught every ball that came his way. So hats off to him. He was my MVP for the game.
Oh, dude balled out. 8 receptions, 125 yards, and that game-winning touchdown. He may not be a household name yet, but he needs to be. When you look at the receiving core, everyone talks about, Tyler Vaughns, Amon-Ra St. Brown, rightfully so, they deserve it. But even Brew McCoy, just because of his status as a recruit, and he had a good game too, had a touchdown. Hats off to him. His first game playing as a Trojan. So I love seeing that. But I think it's time now to get Drake London on that radar as this guy. I'm not saying one game I'm saying he's the best receiver of the bunch, but it just shows how much talent they have at that group that no matter what week it is, any guy can be the one that goes off. And this week it was Drake London.
That's something that they did last year, and it's carrying over to this year. You can have your highlighted guys going into a game, But now these route concepts and, the ability to anyone that can go in the game can make a play, it's going to make it so hard on defenses going forward just because you can't match up versus them.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
said it before the season. I'm saying it now. They're the best wide receiver group in college football.
Oh, 100%. And they've never got, not never, but as of late, they haven't been getting that credit like they have with teams like LSU. And I thought last year they were highly disrespected, but this year they have to be in that conversation. And they are definitely the best in the Pac-12. I think they're best in the nation. So showed out last week. Super excited to see what they do against Arizona. Like you said, we'll preview it later, but yeah, I think it could be a rout if things go well. So I got 2 questions for you to end it. Let's start first with this one. I never, ever, ever want to question kids or professionals getting injured. I just think that's bad taste. I hate when media does that. You shouldn't do it. So I don't want to by any means put that in the universe, but I do just want to ask this because it seemed odd. I don't want to say I'm calling anyone out, but it seemed odd at very important times in the game. ASU players continually had cramping going on, and no USC players. I'm not saying, but they're playing the same conditions. Was that odd to you, or you think it was just the way it went down and how it goes?
Ryan, I didn't even notice it a lot, but now that you say that, I'm looking back, and those guys were on the turf a lot. Injuries do happen. You got to hydrate. They're coming from Tempe. They had to fly, so I'm sure they were hydrating. But it was very odd at a 9 a.m. game that in cool temperatures, real cloudy, raining to start the game, it wasn't hot at all, that it was so lopsided in the cramping situations. But it happened. I don't think that's something coaches say, I think maybe guys are just gassed.
Yeah.
That's what I'm about. I think they're just gassed, and the best way to when you're tired is just to stay on the ground and catch a breath that way and give everyone else a breather too.
Yeah, and first game of the season, so obviously and conditioning stuff is all different, so contribute to that. But yeah, I just found it odd. It seemed like every time, because USC's offense is predicated on rhythm and on up tempo and getting, and it seemed like every time they get a good play going or they get the offense we get going, someone would be on the turf. Sometimes the same guy 3 times in a row, and maybe. And here's the only part where I'll put like a question or quotes on it. Maybe in a normal circumstance, when those cramps happen, guys just get off the field quick and the sub comes in. Whereas this game, they were like, nope, I'm just going to plop down here and stop the offense up tempo. So I don't know. Just an observation I saw.
It's a great way of looking at it. I don't think the coaching staff went into it as that was one of the strategies.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been one hell of one because.
So you slow down an up tempo offense.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way. Just take a knee. They got to slow the game up and make sure you're all right.
They had did you see the detail? I can't think of his name now, but the tackle that ran off to use the restroom? I love it.
You got to go, Ryan.
You got to go. Random story for you. We're getting off topic here, but my dad played high school football in Minnesota, 8-man ball, small high school. He played tight end and tackle. He played tight end, and as he got bigger, he moved to tackle. They played this one team where one of their defensive players was known for this. I don't know if he planned it, but he would crap his pants every game and used it almost as a tactic of maybe guys don't want to block me if I do this. And his nickname was Milk Toast because that's what he did every game. He'd literally crap his pants every game. My dad still remembers him to this day and said he hated blocking that guy because he's literally blocking a guy covered in crap. Oh, no. Strategy. Strategy. Okay, last question about USC because we got to talk about it. It's probably gets old, but at about the 7-minute mark, no, I wouldn't even say that. At about the 5-minute mark into the game, everyone's already talking about Clay Helton. Moving on from Clay Helton, this team can't do it. They come back and win. Is he still on the hot seat, you think? I mean, he's going to be on this hot seat no matter what. This team could go undefeated unless they win the championship.
Ryan, Clay Helton is always going to be on the hot seat at USC. Fans, they just want excellence out of his teams. They want each team to be blown out by 30 points. They want complete dominance. They want to host trophies. So this time around, we have a new defensive coordinator. We have a returning offensive coordinator. Both of these coaches and their pedigree, you don't have to micromanage.
Yeah, they don't have to be baby.
It's time for him to be the general manager out there on the field, know what's going on. If he has to step in and counsel a play or something like that and see what the thought process is, that's what he does. He manages the game. But these guys are professionals, and they got to do their jobs. I was waiting to see how Todd Orlando's defense played. He can't get micromanaged out of calls. He's got to show the Trojan fans what he's all about and why he's their D coordinator. And that goes the same for Graham on the opposite side. You can't sit there and tell Graham what to do because he's got to find his rhythm, his play calls, what Slovis playing great in, and that's not what the head coach's job is. He relies on his coaching staff to do it the right way, and until they falter or until they are getting blown out by 50, he needs to just manage the game.
Yep, and hey, when the going got tough, with all the turnovers, with some penalty calling, the team fought, they battled back, they ended up winning the game. No one knew how the season was going to go. No one knew how it was going to start. So everyone looks at the start and they say, oh, that's bad coaching. Look at the turnovers. Look at this. But the fact that in-game they made adjustments, in-game they turned things around and they ended up winning it, that has to be credited to coaching. And I think Clay Helton did a great job of keeping his team together, putting it on, like you said, the coordinators to do their thing. The defense, we didn't really talk about them much, but they were flying to the ball. I love the speed. I love the tackling, the attitude. Loved it. So that's what Todd Orlando was going to bring. That's what we knew he was going to bring when he came over from Texas, and we saw that. So it's a work in progress. There's no offseason. We had Kerry Colbert on 2 months ago, and they couldn't even run routes yet. They were basically in the weight room and out doing 7-on-7 drills. So they weren't even doing 11-on-11 and stuff like that. So it's a work in progress. They won the biggest game, the hardest game of their schedule so far. They got the win. It wasn't pretty all the time, but hey, they got it done. So Clay, like you said, is going to be on the hot seat, but I think that's a big win for him in this program.
Clay Helton is 1-0, you USC fans. Understand.
Exactly. 1-0.
And so are you.
And yeah, so are we. All right, so lastly, from one hot seat to, I don't know if you can call it a hotter seat because Clay Helton's seat is always burning hot, but Anthony Lynn and the Chargers Frost that's in the show with this. No Rams talk, guys, on the bye. We'll talk of the preview next week when they play the Seattle Seahawks. Got a great show planned for that. Have a good guest coming on. So enjoy this bye week, Rams fans. You can relax. Or I guess the bye week technically was last week, but enjoy the week off. So Chargers, welcome in the Raiders. We talked about it a lot. Preview, you had the Raiders. That was going to be a good game, but you liked the Raiders in this one. I like the Chargers in this one. It came down to one final play with 1 second on the clock. The Chargers chose to do a fade route. They had a 4-stack receiver to the left, Donald Parham, 6'8", tight end to the right. They did a fade route to him. It was in his hands, caught, and then broken up at the last second, or even bobbled to the ground. It was called a touchdown at first, then recalled. Everyone just wants to talk about Anthony Lynn, another loss. So let's before we even really get into the game too much, Frosty, we won't talk too much about it. But let's just start with Anthony Lynn because we have to. Another loss. Are we still behind this guy, or are you starting to swivel?
I'm still behind him. He played a better team and still took him to the wire. And if it wasn't for a defensive back making a play 2 times in a row, one of those fade routes could have been a touchdown, and they could have won the game. So I'm still high on him. There's things to work on always, but there's always this week, and let's see him finish the game. No Bosa, no chance.
Yeah, that's kind of what it comes down to. Here's where I have a problem, and this isn't necessarily with Lynn, but it falls on Lynn. Mm-hmm. I was looking after the game at snap percentage and usage. Bosa's out. Who's the next best pass rusher on the team? Uchenna Nwosu, right? Yeah, our guy. Played 7 snaps. I don't get it. So, I mean, obviously Gus Bradley's the one putting those guys in, him and the linebackers coach. They're the ones in charge of that. But that's where Anthony Lynn, as the head coach, needs to get with his guys and say, all right, we had 9 total pressures on Derek Carr. They were missing 3 of their starting offensive linemen, right? 3 linemen on the Oakland Raiders were out. And we had 9 pressures, 3 of those from our inside guy, Jerry Tillery. And our third best, currently second best pass rushers in the game 7 times. That's where you as the head coach say, the buck stopped with me, and so I either need to make a coaching change on that side of the ball, or I need to start taking some onus on calling plays for that side of the ball, because that's what you can't have. And the reason why the Raiders don't, because you look at the stat sheet, Derek Carr is held under 200 yards. They held Josh Jacobs under 70 yards. The defense didn't play. They didn't play terrible, but the big plays are what got him. Big plays. Derek Carr, the big pass to Nelson Aguilar, former Trojan, fight on for the touchdown. It's these big plays at critical moments when they lost. And that's where it falls on Anthony Lynn, because he's preparing these guys. The guys are fighting. Still another game that they're in it till the very end. Could have won, didn't win, but they're in it to win. That's your job as a coach, to prepare your players, put them in the best situation to succeed, But now that's where we're looking at our Gus Bradley putting his players and his defense in the best situations.
And it may be the other side of the ball, and it may be something that Anthony Lynn has to address, and it may be something they're addressing as we speak. We don't know that. But
Totally.
It always falls on the head coach, just like we were just talking about with USC. No matter what, the game manager has to make the final calls because he's a head honcho. So we'll see how that plays out. I'm still a big fan of Coach Lynn. I think he adds a lot of value, and his teams do show up to play. They just aren't winning the games. These aren't blowouts. The Raiders are a very talented team. And, again, no Bosa, no chance.
Yeah. Yeah, they need him back in the concussion protocol. I would assume he'd be back next week. But, yeah, I think you still keep riding with Lynn. The offense is the second offense in the entire NFL. Justin Herbert continues to play well, which has a lot to do with Lynn and his staff, Shane Steichen and Pep Hamilton. They got another running back off the streets in Kalen Ballage, who ended up leading rushers with 15 carries, 69 yards, and a touchdown. Looked great. So the offense is clicking. I don't think you break that up right now, or even at the end of the season, unless they literally do not win another game. Then obviously you probably start from scratch. But I think you keep rolling with him. You just get things fixed up, and eventually these games are going to start turning in your favor. Unfortunately, they play a tough Miami team that we talked about a lot when the Rams got blown out from them, and now the Chargers have to play them. And the Dolphins looked good, beating the Cardinals on Sunday. So that'll be a tough one we'll talk about later in the week. But this is a team, man, that plays hard. They play well. I think the injuries are really stacking up against them, and they just need some guys to get back, and they need to execute at the end of games. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, get some guys back and execute and finish the game.
Last thing about them I'll ask you, and I don't know if this is a fair question to you because you're not an offensive guy, but they threw back-to-back fades. I'm just going to ask this because it's been a big thing on Twitter right now. So the last two plays of the game, they threw a fade to Mike Williams that was broken up. He caught it. It was a good defensive play broken up. He ended up being injured on the play. And then the very next play, they threw another fade, different formation, but another fade to Darnell Parham that obviously was broken up and into the game. Do you have a problem with them doing that and not having a play go to Keenan Allen, or you think it was a good call and players got to execute?
I think it's a good call. Obviously, if we sit back here and couch coach, yeah, you throw one to Keenan. But Mike Williams has the ability to go up and get one, and the tight end that – how tall did you say he was?
6'8".
Okay, so you give him a chance to go up and get one too. And they both made a play on the ball, and they could have caught it, but the defenders made good plays. And he gave his – if you go back to what you said earlier, you got to put the guys in the best position to win the game. And they put the play in, and it could have won either way. Yep,
I agree with you 100%. Everyone that I've been seeing saying is like, how are you not getting the ball to Keenan Allen? Everyone at home knew you should have got the ball to Keenan Allen. Guess what? So did the Las Vegas Raiders. They knew the ball was maybe going to Keenan Allen. This isn't basketball where your best player on the court, you just ISO him, give it, and let him make a play. It's football where there's a lot of defenders going. It's crowded down there. They're on like the 4 or 5 yard line. It's crowded down there in space. You can't expect your best receiver to just go make a play if there's 3 defenders surrounding him. That's not going to happen. So you ISO your big man who's 6'8", give him a 50-50 ball, a chance to make a play. I'm fine with that all day long. I really am. Let the players make a chance to make a play, and they just need to execute it. Unfortunately, they were not able to, and the Chargers fall another game, and they'll look to rebound next week against the Dolphins. We'll talk about. So, Frosty, we're in unison though. Anthony Lynn, just keep riding with him, right?
Keep riding with him. He's a good coach.
All right, there you go. So I got a little fired up during that, as usual. I don't know. I'm just passionate about it. I love Anthony Lynn. I think he's going to turn things around. I think he's the right man for the job. Just haven't had the chips falling his way, but I think they will start. It's tough, but they will start. We say it every week, but I think it's going to start. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for listening to the Believe in LA Football podcast. Frosty, where can everyone find you at?
Find me at The Organic Frost. You can also find me at Take Back the West podcast and on Twitter at The Organic Frost.
There you go. So make sure to check out Take Back the West. We're putting up, 5 or 6 interviews just this week. So a lot of awesome stuff you're doing there. It's a great Trojans show for all you Trojans fans. You can find me at Ryan Dyrwood, LAFB. Obviously, check out the site, LAFBnetwork.com. Everything is hosted there, including Take Back the West, including Believe in LA Football, including plenty of articles on your Rams, Trojans, Chargers, and Bruins. Big thanks to Golden Road Brewery. Enjoy a nice cold brew. I know a lot of fans needed that this weekend, but we look forward to talking to everyone later in the week as LA football looks to rebound. All 4 teams are playing. Let's go 4-0. We'll talk to you guys then.
Let's do it.